So is it time to start impeaching judges and Supreme Court justices? Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So I think by now we've all heard about Clarence Thomas and his questionable ethics. After an initial report surfaced that he'd taken all kinds of free vacations from his conservative billionaire buddy Harlan Crow, it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. Number one, we hear about an undisclosed sale of property to Harlan Crow. And to make matters worse, Clarence Thomas's mother was living in a property that he'd sold to Harlan Crow for free. And that's not even mentioning the fact that Thomas was getting income from a defunct real estate business, or at least one that was allegedly defunct. And to make the story of the trips even worse, it turns out that this was first reported back in 2004, when Thomas was disclosing these trips. So in response to that, rather than stopping going on the trips, Thomas simply decided he wasn't going to disclose them anymore. That seems like a good way to handle the problem. And this is all on top of the fact that Thomas is a proud member of the court's sexual assault caucus and has a wife who's a conservative lobbyist who sells her influence with her husband to the highest bidder and did her best to undermine the American democracy. In an ironic twist, I was watching a video last night with my wife where I was talking about how little credibility the court has with the American public. And this was all before these revelations about Clarence Thomas. Now you can only imagine how people are viewing the court. That's a lower percentage than people's faith in organized religion, public schools, or organized labor, and about tied with the presidency. Of course, it's still much better viewed than Congress, but that's a story for another day. But it turns out that Clarence Thomas's behavior is just the latest scandal that has roiled our entire court system. I mean, we all know about Brett Kavanaugh, another member of the court's proud sexual assault caucus, who I have asserted since day one probably had enough evidence against him to warrant criminal charges. And the fact that the White House essentially stopped the FBI from investigating the claims against him thoroughly. So far, in fact, that the FBI never even interviewed Christine Blasey Ford or Brett Kavanaugh about these charges. Seems like that would be pretty much a base level of investigation. But on a more relevant issue, it turns out that multiple Supreme Court justice nominees, including Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and Neil Gorsuch, pretty clearly perjured themselves when asked about the abortion issue when they were testifying before Congress. All of them stated that they believed that Roe v. Wade was settled law, only to vote months later to reverse it. Seems like a pretty clear case of perjury to me. And of course, Republicans believe that perjury is a basis for impeaching someone, right? Remember the Clinton impeachment, of course? But I forgot. Those values only apply when they're attacking a Democrat. It's only Democrats who believe that the laws apply to both sides. And now it turns out that Matthew Kacsmaryk, the Texas federal district court judge, made famous by ruling that the abortion drug should not be made available nationwide, a ruling that has since been stayed by both the Court of Appeals and the U.S. Supreme Court, in an opinion handed down by that raving liberal Justice Alito. Well, it turns out that after he was nominated for the court by Donald Trump, and while he was facing confirmation hearings, he went and had his name removed from an article submitted to a Texas law review that opposed President Obama's support for abortion rights and for the rights of the LGBTQ. In other words, he also is misrepresenting himself so that he could get through the confirmation process. These efforts remind me of George Santos and other Republican candidates who basically misrepresented themselves to get elected, only to turn out to be lying pieces of garbage who kneel down before the far right as soon as they're given the opportunity. The difference is, at least George Santos needs to face the voters in 2 years. Kacsmaryk, Thomas, and the other Supreme Court justices have lifetime appointments, all of which only speaks to the fact that if we are going to have our courts regain credibility, something that's essential for us to have an operating democracy in which the rule of law is respected, then Congress is going to have to step in and take steps to impeach some of these judges, because until they do so, nobody's going to believe that these courts are anything more than corrupt, partisan legislative bodies, which is what they've begun under the leadership of Republicans and the Federalist Society. Well, if you want to see more about the FBI cover-up of Brett Kavanaugh's misdeeds, check out this video over here that I did quite a while ago. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.